All right, we're COMP2007. It's officially week 5. Content, we're a little bit behind the other courses for a couple of reasons. One, I was away last week, right? And also from a pace perspective, I wanted to kind of take a little slower with some of you guys. I got some feedback that we're going okay. So what I want to try and do is talk about assignment number 1, which is going to be due in a couple weeks, right? And then talk about, the main thing I want to talk about today is content pages, master pages, that kind of thing, and a little bit of user controls. I've put a couple of PowerPoint presentations up online, right, for you, for the stuff we talked about last time when we were together. And I've also put up assignment number 1, which is worth 20% of your mark. Now again, when I talk about this stuff, assignments and everything else, remember that this course I'm following. We're in a kind of a following course. I'm not. This isn't the course that I'm leading, so I'm taking on the stuff that we're doing with Rich, right? So, and I mean that not as a disclaimer because I think Rich is doing good work, but only that just to let you know where we're at, so that you know from as we follow the other classrooms around. So if we look at assignment number 1, let's start with this. Again, if you notice, it says Rich on the top here, but it is Comp 2007. We're going to be putting together a something called a game calculator. All right. What we want, the outcomes for this particular assignment is going to be a few of them. One, you're going to prove, to create like this empty web application project. You're going to build an input form with various server controls, just like lab, the first lab we did together, right? You're going to do some validation, user validation. We're going to talk about user validation or user input validation. We kind of did all that already with our code behind file that we kind of used in C#. We'll do more user validation this week and next week. And then we'll talk about how we can output the calculation results to the server using server controls. We've already kind of done this stuff. All this assignment number 1 will give you an opportunity to do is show more of your work when you build out this assignment. And then, of course, document your code and comments within your scripts. So there is no external document in this case, just an internal documentation that you're going to be using. So requirements. Again, document each section. Here's one we haven't covered. Build a master page and a CSS file to set up basic page layout and design. We're going to talk about master pages today, so that it'll give you an insight of what you need to do, right? And then build out a default ASPX page that uses your master page. And then, again, what we want to do is the default page tracks the results of 4 separate games or contests. And for each game, your page requires a radio button list for results. The choices are win or lose, an input for points scored for that particular game, right? And validation that the points scored has a numeric input and that cannot be negative, okay? An input for points allowed, and a validation that points allowed has a numeric input that cannot be negative, same as the previous thing. So several different controls here that we're asking you to put together. Validation that points scored and points allowed for game 1 cannot be the same, right? And that means that there's no ties or draws, right? And one team must win each game. So depending on which game it is, thank you, Karen, for coming in on time today, right? You actually figured it out. All right. An input for spectators and the number of people who watch the game, right? And validation that the spectators has a numeric input and it cannot be negative. Very, very simple. And then in total, your page requires 16 inputs, 4 games. Each game needs the results, points scored, and the points allowed, and the number of spectators for the game. Of course, validation on all 16 fields have inputs provided, and no fields can be left blank. Okay, so that's kind of part 1 of this, or the first part of the assignment, right? 2, add a button that says summary. Check the summary button will calculate and display the following, or clicking the following, the button will display the following information. Each item should be displayed in a separate ASP label, right? Again, A, the number of games won. B, number of games lost. C, the winning percentage. What percentage of the players' games did they win? For example, if they win 3 out of 4 games, the winning percentage will be 70.75, right? Or 75%, actually is the way it should be. Total points scored, total points allowed. a point differential, the difference between the total points scored and the total points allowed. For example, if the player scores 12 total points and allows 8 total points, the point differential is 2, right? If the player scores 10 total points and allows 15 total points, the point differential is -5. So again, when we say allows points, is the points allowed to be scored. That's what we're talking about, just to clarify that. All right, so example, if I'm a player, right, and I'm playing against someone else, and I score 5 points for this particular game, whatever it is, but I allow 10 points, like people score 10 points on me, then I've allowed 10 points to be scored, right? That's why points allowed means, just to clarify, right? I know this is a point of contention for some people in other on the other sections when we did this previously. Total spectators, average spectators, how many average spectators? So the average number of spectators obviously be for the 4 games. You're averaging how many spectators on average for each of the games, right? Okay, we have a different kind of evaluation criteria that we're going to be using. Again, from an application setup perspective, you can get up to 2 points. If you set up your master page with CSS, 2 points. Inputs, validation, and so on, each part is allowed. And of course, there's some 2-point bonus potential for additional functionality you add into the application. All right, so very, very straightforward. I typically don't do my rubrics this way, but I want to make sure that you guys see the same thing the other classes see. So just from a continuity perspective, this assignment will be looking a little different than what you're used to from me. Okay, any questions around this? So again, it's just basically we're building a game calculator, and all it's actually, if anything, it's a game tabulator more than anything else that keeps track of the games and everything else. It's fairly straightforward. We haven't covered master pages. Now you got 2 weeks to do this little thing, and the reason why I'm kind of putting it out there is because we missed a week from last week. I want to give you a couple weeks, to do this thing for assignment number 1. It's worth 20% of your mark, so it's not a small amount of marks that it's worth. When it's due, so again, we're in week 5. Week 7, when it's due, June 19th, that's the same week we're probably going to do a midterm, just FYI, right? So that's why I'm kind of giving you a couple weeks out to make sure that you're able to get it done so that you're prepared for the midterm that we're going to be doing. Okay? Any questions around this one? So again, it's fairly straightforward, but if you have any problems or questions, please bring them up to me before end of class. Was that? Absolutely. Yes, that's one piece that we didn't mention. We definitely want it a live site on the cloud. We'll talk about deployment options again today and how to do that. There's different options. I just want to make sure you guys are always doing it on the cloud because we want to take advantage of that Azure pass that you have all been given. Okay, thank you for that.